Welcome back to College Football Addiction. Some of our chaos in the ACC has certainly subsided, and the path to the ACC championship has become a whole lot more crystal clear. That doesn't mean that things couldn't get murkied up again. It doesn't mean that things couldn't kind of get like, oh man, this is interesting. But it's going to take a lot. And we'll talk about that quickly. We'll talk quickly about the Miami win, the SMU win, and of course the Clemson loss and what all of it means. But the fun that we've had with breaking down scenarios is probably coming to an end in the ACC. However, you guys have been great. This channel has really grown, just passed over 15,000 subscribers. And so I'll share some quick thoughts on those two wins, what the losses for Pitt and Clemson mean, how those teams could maybe get back in it if you're a Pitt or Clemson fan. But we try to keep things pretty real here, even though the team that I support isn't very good. I do try and keep it real for you guys on College Football Addiction. I guess I keep it real on the other one too. And tune in later if you want to see me fire everyone. But yeah, let's talk about yesterday. Miami won, SMU won, Pitt, Clemson on the losing end of the day. So is Clemson out of things? Well, they're certainly on life support. I'll explain that in just a few moments. Quick thoughts on Miami and SMU because winners deserve to be talked about. We've certainly grown our Miami and our SMU and Clemson as well fan bases. There's some Pitt fans that hang out. We appreciate all of you. A lot of Louisville fans. So shout out to Louisville as well. We'll talk about y'all in a minute. But Miami, just an absolute offensive juggernaut. Cam Ward's still insane. To beat Miami, you just have to keep scoring. When Duke went up 10, I was sitting at a tailgate. Took my family to Tallahassee yesterday, so send prayers there. But I was sitting at a tailgate watching the game. Duke goes up 10, and I said, man, they probably need to score 3 more times. Like, Miami is not going to stop scoring. It was early. There was no chance that was going to be enough. I didn't have enough faith in Duke's defense to hold Miami down. I don't have faith in a lot of defenses across the country. And so, credit to Duke for going out, playing super hard. Manny had those boys ready. They're not close to on the same level. And once they got rolling, once Duke had to go punch for punch for punch, because Miami will take a punch. Miami has shown that this year. They'll screw around a little bit and they'll make a mistake or they'll give some stuff up defensively. But Miami, once they get punching, like, they are hard to stop. And so Cam Ward, a great day. Travis Hunter was off. Dylan Gabriel had a nice day. And then JT had a nice night on Friday, kind of garbage time stats, but the same writers that don't watch him when he's really good probably are not watching him when he kind of fills the box with garbage time stats. But Cam Ward probably helped his Heisman odds. We'll talk about that probably later in the week. I do think Miami's defense is still suspect. I will preface what I'm about to say with this. I do think you can still get them. 31 points to Duke overall, just not good enough. Manny scripted some stuff up really well. And I thought, that 4th down call was a really good one. I thought Duke really probably saved some stuff for this game. I know this game probably meant a little bit more to Manny for obvious reasons. So their defense is suspect, but I will say they did step up big time when it mattered. Once they got behind and then Miami started scoring, Miami's defense was like, all right, we gotta come to play. I'm not super sold on Duke having a great offense and then putting up 31 is kind of enough of a red flag. But I will say they did step up late. And so when the game really mattered and it got late, they were not letting Duke just do anything at all. Miami is good enough to outscore anyone in the country until they maybe get to the playoff. And even then, who is the next elite team out there that is complete? Probably Oregon, but when Miami would have to see a really good defense like Georgia or Texas or something like that, that's when I'd say, man, is it a little bit trouble time? Those are really good problems to have, Oh man, we might not be able to beat like the top 2 or 3 teams in the country, but we could beat everybody else. All right, well that, again, that's kind of a, first world problems there as a college football fan. SMU, quickly, they answered a lot of questions last night. To go from 6 turnovers to 6 touchdowns in the next week was pretty impressive. No turnovers last night. Jennings had a good day, and the defense really showed up. I had questions about this Pitt team. We spoke with Pitt folks this week, and I didn't have a lot of confidence that they could go in and win. I don't know that I thought it would look like this. SMU, credit to Rhett. SMU certainly bounced back after a pretty disappointing performance against Duke. They kind of got their wake-up call. We talked with Billy Embody about that. They kind of got their wake-up call and still got to win, which is a huge benefit. But big game for them as well. It looks like Miami and SMU in the ACC championship, and it's an opportunity for Rhett Lashley to do something that Manny Diaz couldn't. It's an opportunity for Miami to do something that they've never done since joining the conference. So could other teams get back into it? Well, here's what the bad news is for Clemson. Both of these teams are now up a game on Clemson in the ACC, but that's not it. They now have a tiebreaker as well. So they're essentially up 2 games. The tiebreaker we've been talking about is opponents' records. Well, that, unfortunately for Clemson, is now out the window. And the new tiebreaker is the fact that SMU and Miami beat Louisville and Clemson did not. So they've lost to a common opponent, and that's going to supersede the whole tiebreaker thing. So I don't have a cheering guide for you. There's really nothing to screenshot this week. It's a pretty simple path forward, and I'll talk about it here in a moment. It would take Miami losing 2 games down the stretch for Clemson to pass them. It would take SMU losing 2 games down the stretch for Miami to pass them. You look at the schedules. SMU plays Virginia, Boston College, and Cal. Not a great team in any of that. Maybe the BC game could get tricky, but I'm not counting on it. Miami plays Georgia Tech, Wake, and Syracuse. And again, they've got a game to play with. So either one of those 2 programs could lose one of those games, and they'd still be ahead of Clemson. So I don't see either of those 2 teams, Miami or SMU, losing 2 of their last 3 games. I really don't see them losing any of their last games, let alone 2. Now, what if both teams drop a game? Wouldn't we end up with that 3-way tie again? Isn't that good news for Clemson? Well, not really. Before we get to why, I will tell you quickly, we did start a Discord last week. If you want to kind of continue the conversation over there, YouTube comments can sometimes be tough. It's free to join. The link is in the description. I'd love to have you. I'd love to be able to chat. It's a little easier to communicate on there. It's a big chat room for those not familiar. It is completely free. I don't get any of your information. I'm not trying to sell you anything. If you'd like to be part of that, you're more than welcome to join in the description. Well, what about opponents' records? What about getting back into that? Well, we'd have to consider win percentage against common opponents, as I just told you. And since Clemson lost to a team that SMU and Miami beat, Louisville, they'd be eliminated. So even if SMU and Miami both drop a game and we have a 3-way tie, we really don't have a 3-way tie. Clemson's only hope is that Miami or SMU drop 2 of their last 3 games. And I'm just telling you, I just don't see it. So what about Pitt? Could Pitt get back into it? Well, actually, yes. Pitt could get back into it if Miami dropped a game. If Pitt wins out, which is not going to be easy. I believe they play Clemson and Louisville. So the road is very tough. And let's say Miami loses to Syracuse, a team that Pitt beat, or really anyone. It's going to come down to opponent winning percentage or record against common opponents. And in a situation where Miami lost a game and Pitt won out, it's pretty likely that Pitt would be in over Miami because Pitt's opponents are so much more difficult in conference. Miami played Louisville, but Pitt also played Louisville, and Pitt also played Clemson and SMU, who have really good conference records. And so Pitt's opponents' strength of schedule is much better than Miami's. They'd likely be in. That's not a certainty. There's a lot to go, but that's probably how it would go. However, I think Pitt's going to be an underdog 2 more times, and so I'm not willing to do a cheering guide based on that possibility that Miami drops a game. I don't think the Canes drop a game, and I don't think Pitt wins out. If it gets closer, and if one of those things starts to happen and we need to go back to opponents' winning percentages, we'll do it. There's really no reason to do a cheering guide, but I'll give you a quick one. Just the 4 teams in conference make it pretty easy. Miami this weekend should cheer for Miami, Virginia Tech, and UVA. Clemson should cheer for Georgia Tech, Clemson, and UVA. Pitt should cheer for Georgia Tech, Virginia Tech, and themselves, Pitt. And SMU should cheer for Georgia Tech, Virginia Tech, and UVA. These aren't tiebreaker things anymore. These aren't winning percentages. These are needing teams to lose to jump back up into the standings. Again, cheer for yourself, cheer against the people that are in this group, this little foursome, Miami, Clemson, Pitt, and SMU. Now, this has been a super fun series, and the chaos looks like it's leaving the ACC and heading to the SEC, though. They have 5 teams with 1 loss tied at the top of the conference. I will continue to update you on the ACC just in general. It may not be as salacious or exciting as it once was, but what is exciting is what's going on over there in the SEC. Again, 5 teams with 1 loss tied at the top of the conference. So if you want to know what's going on over there, click the video on the screen right now to get caught up.